Hello everyone, just making a video regarding 2021 Subaru WRX, which is the same model. It's been the same since 2015. It's a 2.0 liter FA motor. It's been the same generation for about six years. This is the last year that they're making this this design, which is 2015 to 2021. So the one thing I want to first mention is the shifter, like the transmission. When you're shifting the gears, it seems like if you don't really have it perfectly in place, it feels like it's grinding the gears, or it's like it just doesn't go in smooth. Okay, especially like from first to second. You either have to be in the high RPMs to shift it smooth, or you have to double clutch in those two gears. So I don't know. I feel like they could have made the gear shifter better. Then again, a lot of people will say, well, why don't you just get the STI? Because STI has a much better transmission. But STI is also $10,000 more. And it has worse gas mileage. And so and so. I mean, they're different cars. They look the same, but on the inside, mechanically they're very different. It's two different cars, so you can't really compare them as much. So yeah, the shifter, I feel like it's kind of cheap. I feel like they could have put more engineering behind it, and also like the dash lights. Right now it's kind of still daytime, but when you turn on your headlights, the interior lights on your dash, they're very dim. You actually have to turn them up all the way in order for you to have bright interior, like your dash and your radio and so and so. I had a Subaru Forester before, and it was fine even on the first setting. So when you turn on your headlights or just the driving lights, it was working fine. It was bright. On this car, I'm not sure. It's very dim. It's definitely a big flaw. But when you turn them off, it's fine. Then they're very bright, even like in the first setting. What I mean by first setting is you have this dial here that you can turn, like that. So on the other Subarus that I had, even on the first notch, it was perfect. It was, even with the lights on, you could still see everything. On this car, it's not. I'm not surprised they actually didn't. I'm not sure why this wasn't addressed. Another thing is the stereo system. The speakers really suck in this car. You have to like turn up the volume like more than halfway up even to hear like normal sound. So I think it's really weak, like compared to my 2018 Subaru Forester, which has really loud speakers. Like I would say 2 times louder than the WRX. And I'm surprised because the WRX is like 28,000 plus tax, so 29,000. The Forester is only 25,000, so you are paying 4,000 or 5,000 more for the car, but your speakers suck. I'm surprised. And another huge flaw that I want to point out, and this really pisses me off, is that if you want to replace your low beam headlights, low beams, so your low beams will be here at this projector beam on the right. To get to these projector beams, you actually have to loosen these bolts that hold the battery on both sides, because you don't have enough. Like I don't even have big hands, but I can't even squeeze my hands in there to put my hand in there to turn the light, so I could unplug it. So you have to actually loosen this up, those bolts, and slide it over by like an inch, where you could actually put your hand in there. And on this side, you actually have to take this air intake off, which is kind of easy. You just take those 2 screws off with a flat screwdriver, and then you have to loosen this screw and then open the air box, so that way it like opens up, because as you see, it's actually like in there. So see, you can't even get 2 fingers in there. I mean, so I think this is whoever designed this design is a moron, and I'm surprised the Japanese engineers at the Subaru that actually did that, because it's really dumb. However, on your high beams, which you rarely use, most people use, I mean, your low beams always come on at night first. The high beam is very easy to replace. See, it's right there. You don't need to do anything or take anything off. You know, they're right here. Well, I mean, I guess you might just take this intake off. You just, you know, pop those 2 little plastic screws out, and then this just pulls out. It's very easy from the airbox. So it's very easy to get to the high beams and the driving lights, which is somewhere in the middle. You know, the ones that come on automatically even when your lights are off. So, and on this side, you could see it's right here. So very easy to get to them. So for example, you don't really use your high beams a lot, only when, I don't know, you're driving at night. So your high beams never really burn out, but your low beams, you use them all the time at night, because those are the first lights that come on. And if you use your high beams, for example, you're gonna blind people. So I'm surprised these engineers are not smart enough to think that, like, why can't you just reverse it and put the low beams here instead of the high beams, so that it's easy to get to them, because your low beams will burn out a lot faster, and put the high beams like over there on the side where it's hard to get to it, because you hardly ever replace your high beams. I don't remember any time I replaced my high beams, because I never use them. So I think whoever designed the headlights needs to really get fired, or yeah, they really did a bad job. I'm not sure how they designed that, but it's really not. It's a terrible design, because it took me like about at least half an hour to replace my bulbs, because I had to take a bunch of stuff apart, which wasn't difficult, but you still need to have screwdrivers and like some sockets, or just like metric wrenches that you could use. Like I think it was number 10 millimeter. Yeah, like 10 millimeter wrench. And you also like have to have a long socket with long adapter, because sometimes you actually need to take half of the airbox out. So that took me almost like about 40 minutes just to replace the bulbs. I mean, it's really ridiculous. If you're driving somewhere and your bulb burns out, and you have a bulb and you're like a spare bulb in your car, and you're trying to replace it, then you really can't do it without tools, because you just can't get to them. Even if you have a small hands, you just cannot get to them. I'm surprised that on 2021, and actually it's the same thing from 2015 to 2021, that these engineers didn't really care, or just made it easier to get to these headlights. And I think the last flaw, I think they made the car a little bit underpowered. I feel like they should have made it a little faster, or maybe gave it like a bigger turbo, or just, it only has 268 horsepower. I feel like it's maybe it's tuned down by the factory, and I heard like what I read from the research and articles online, that they probably made it a little bit underpowered, or tuned it down so it doesn't overshadow the STI. Because if they would have made it faster, then it would have been almost as fast as the STI. Even though from 0 to 60 they are almost identical, and in quarter mile, believe it or not, because STI is actually heavier than the WRX. So in top speed, the STI is faster, of course, because it has like about 35-40 more horsepower and a bigger motor. So, and then again, you have a worse gas mileage. So it's a different car, but I feel like they could have made it a little bit faster. So I'm not sure. So yeah, those are the flaws that I notice. So share some flaws that you notice with the Subaru WRX. And I hope you like the video, and you take care.